तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. अरुणाचला शिवा अरुणाचला शिवा अरुणाचला शिवा अरुणाचला. Namaskar, dear friends. I am giving uh, one very important video about Maharshi Ramana Sage of Arunachala. This article was published in the magazine section of the Indian Express on Sunday, 9th April 1950, 5 days before the Mahanirvana of Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharshi. Therefore, this is a very, very important article. Tiruvannamalai, Arunachala in Sanskrit is one of the most sacred places of pilgrimage for Hindus as God is worshipped there in the form of light. Once a year, the holy beacon is lit on the top of the hill. Thousands of people go thither to see the light and adore it. But all through the year, the place has now become an international port of call for spirituality because of the presence there of Maharshi Ramana, a living flame of God realization. As a young lad in his teens, he came to Arunachala, and for more than half a century he has not moved from that place. The very name Arunachala served as an imperious call from the divine, and he simply obeyed the call. The exalted state of Azore's and the exalted state of egolessness came to him, and once it comes, it never goes. Strictly speaking, it is not one state among other states of experience. It does not come nor occur in a given moment of time. It is the eternal status, sahaj because of avidya, nescience, one does not recognize it. And, and when avidya is made to disappear, the self-luminous nature of the spirit shines. This is what is called moksha in Vedanta. It is not an after death experience. The continuance of the body is not inconsistent with release. It is only identification of the self with the ego that is an obstacle to realization. When that obstacle has been removed, one becomes a Jivan Mukta, free while living. We hear of many such great souls in our scriptures, but in the Maharshi we have a contemporary Jivan Mukta, a living commentary on the most sublime text of the Vedanta. Many a statement of the scriptures, like the one in the Bhagavad Gita about saying inaction, and action in inaction will remain obscure and unintelligible unless one comes into contact with a sage like the Maharshi. Apparently, Sri Ramana seems to take interest in things that occur around him. He recognizes people and sometimes talks to them. Even creatures belonging to the subhuman species claim his attention, but all these modes of action are performed without the least attachment to them. In truth, there are no actions at all, since they are void of egoity. The core of activity has been removed. Only the shell remains, and that too only for us, the onlookers. Nothing seems to affect this rock of ages. He stands as a witness to all that happens far and near. The distinctions of high and low have no meaning for him. The stranger and the foreigner who visit him feel absolutely disarmed and free even at the first sight. One may be foreign to another or look strange, but how can one be alien to oneself? The Maharshi who has crossed the boundaries of individuality naturally and effortlessly feels, if we may use such a poor word, one with all. He looks upon all as the same, the high-born and the lowly of birth, the cow and the elephant, the dog and the dog-eater. These classifications may have meaning for us who are caught in the network of difference. To him who has seen the non-dual Brahma, which is Sama, the same, there is no plurality, no difference. Healer of the soul. It is a delightful and unique experience to sit in the presence of the Maharshi and bask in the full radiance of his beatific eyes. One might go to him with a medley of doubts and questions, but very often it happens that unsurgings these upsurgings of the mind die down and are burned to ashes as one squats before the siege. One has a foretaste of that pristine state of which the Upanishads speak when the note of the heart is cut and all the doubts are dispelled. One steps back and watches how the turbulent mental stream quietens down and receives an undisturbed reflection of the self-luminous spirit. What one may succeed in attaining after a prolonged course of yogic discipline, one attains with perfect ease and effortlessly in the proximity of the Maharshi. True, this experience may not stay for long. One may get back to the world and wallow again in the dirt of worldliness, but still the impress of spirituality that has been gained is never lost. Seldom is one the depths of whose soul have been stirred by the sublime look of the seas, without the desire to go again to him and receive fresh intimations of the eternal. People sometimes go to him in the hope that by his darshan their earthly wants may be fulfilled, but very soon they discover their own foolishness in asking for fleeting pleasures when the imperishable bliss awaits them. Instead of getting dissatisfied that their cravings go unfulfilled, they will feel thankful that they had been saved from a delusion and a snare. Nachiketas of the Kathopanishad was offered by Yama all the pleasures of all the worlds in lieu of self-knowledge for which he had asked, but the true son of spirituality that the boy was, he refused to be tempted into accepting the pleasant in the place of the good. The Maharishi, who to us is the personification of the supreme good, transmutes our lower passions and desires into moksha kama, an intense longing for release. There are some who go to Maharshi with a curiosity to know from him a cure all for the world's ills. They ask him what solution he has for the problems of poverty, illiteracy, disease, war, etc. Social reform is their religion, a reordering of society is what they seek. They frame their questions in different ways. What message has the Maharshi to give to the social reformer? Is it not the duty of every enlightened citizen to strive for bettering the lot of his fellow men? When misery and squalor abound, how can anyone who has a feeling heart keep quiet without exerting himself in doing his bit for the welfare of the world. The invariable answer that the sage gives to all those who put such questions is, have you reformed yourself first? Very often it happens that the so-called social service is a gratification of the ego. In much of what passes for altruism, there is a core of egoism. Such service blesses neither the server nor the served. The former's pride increases and the latter's demoralization is made complete. It is only such service as contributes to the reduction of the ego that is the harbinger of good. And the influence of the ego cannot be lessened unless one knows, however, remotely, that the ego is not the self, that it is only the pseudo self responsible for all the evil and misery in the world, and that the final and lasting felicity could be realized only when the root cause of the ego, which ignorance, is dispelled. And so, unless one seeks to know the true self, one cannot do real service to society. Reform must begin with oneself. He who is on the path renders service to fellow beings so that his ego may be cleansed and become attenuated and ready to be discarded. And he who has realized the end and has become a Jivan Mukta performs work, or more correctly appears to perform work in order that the world may be saved. Loka Sangraha. So self-inquiry is the basis of true service and self-knowledge is its culmination. No new message. The sage of Arunachala has no new message for humanity. What he teaches through silence more than through words is the ageless gospel of the Vedanta. Sankara cites in his Sutra Bhasha a Shruti text in which it is stated that when approached by Badwa for instruction, says Baskali kept quiet and on being questioned again and again said, we have declared the truth already, but you have not understood. The self is tranquil. Upasana, the Maharshi's teaching is exactly the same as that of the Upanishadic says. He seldom speaks. It is in the stillness of silence that the depth of the spirit are reached. Words and thoughts cannot lead us far enough. Even the words of scripture help us only up to a point, and there they must stop. It is said of young Dakshinamurti that he taught his elderly disciples in the language of silence. It is true that only few can understand what is taught in silence, and so sometimes the Maharshi talks. But he warns his interlocutors at the same time that both questions and answers belong to the realm of avidya, nescience, though the latter do serve as signposts towards the light of wisdom. Doubts will assail the mind so long as the mind lasts. It is only when the eternal state of mindlessness, amani bhava, amani bhava, is realized that all doubts of the mind and questionings of the heart will roll away like mist before the rising sun. The Maharishi's teachings may be stated aphoristically thus: seek to know the self, and the knowledge will make you free. The Chandogya Upanishad records the story of Narada, master of many sciences and arts, going to Sanat Kumara and confessing that he was sorrow stricken. Though he was very learned, he knew that all his learning would be of no avail, and the self knowledge alone could save him. So he approached Sanat Kumara with the request to help him across the ocean of sorrow and received from him the wisdom about the true self. The supreme commandment of scriptures is know the self, Atma Anuvidhi. The Maharshi has said over and over again that Atma Vichara is the one sure and inescapable path for liberation or release. Other sadhanas may help in the process more or less remotely. It is jnana alone that is the direct means to moksha. Atma Vichara. This is essentially the view of Advaita Vedanta, and the reason for it is that moksha is the eternal nature of the self and not something which is to be newly acquired or accomplished. No operation either of the body or of mind brings about release. The ever free status of the self is not recognized because of ignorance which veils the true and projects the untrue. When this ignorance is removed, one realizes one's eternal nature as the non dual, unconditioned self. That which affects the removal of ignorance is wisdom, and what paves the way for wisdom is Atma Vichara. The inquiry, who am I, is not to be regarded as a mental effort to understand the mind's nature. Its main purpose is to focus the entire mind at its source. The source of the psychosis, psychosis I is the self. What one does in self inquiry is to run against the mental current instead of running along with it, and finally transcend the sphere of mental modifications. It is comparatively easy for us to disentangle ourselves from the wrong identification with the physical body and material objects. But the identification with the ego is hard to get over. As the Panchapadika, a commentary on Shankara's Sutra Bhasha says, the conceit I is the first superimposition on the self. The outer layers of ignorance may fall away easily. The last one, however, is difficult to tear. The best way to remove it is to track it down to its source. When there is awareness of the source, which is the self, the ego vanishes. And when the I has been crossed out through jnana, there is no more bondage and consequent sorrow. Moksha. The cessation or the non-cessation of the body has nothing to do with release. The body may continue to exist and the world may continue to appear as in the case of the Maharshi. That makes no difference at all to the self that has been realized. As Sankara says, there is no need to dispute whether the knower of Brahma bears the body for some time or not. How can another object to one's own experience realized in the heart of Brahma knowledge and the continuance of the body as well? In truth, there is neither the body nor the world for him, there is only the self, the eternal existence, Sattva, the luminous intelligence, Chitta, the unexhalable bliss, Ananda. Such an experience is not entirely foreign to us. We have it in sleep, where we are conscious neither of the external world of things nor of the inner world of dreams. But that experience lies under the cover of ignorance. So it is that we come back to the fantasies of dream and the world of waking. Non-return to duality is possible only when nescience is removed. To make this possible, is the object of Vedanta, to inspire even the least of us with hope and help us out of the slough of despond is the purpose of such illustrious exemplars as the Maharishi. Sri Ramana's example is unique because he did not first read and then experience. Experience came to him first, and only later he found corroborative evidence in the scriptural text. To an unbelieving world which is impatient and wants to burn its sacred book, Sri Ramana, like Sri Ramakrishna in an earlier generation, has this message to offer, which that the real book of life is within, and that if we but turn to it and consult its pages, it will open up undreams of vistas leading to limitless felicity and bliss. So here ends the video. Thank you, my dear friends, for watching and listening. Thank you so much. Please subscribe my channel. Thank you so much.